Welcome back to another episode of Paint Society. In this episode, in this series, we're going to be rebuilding the Civic FK8 Type R, and we're going to take it through the series of tearing it down, seeing what parts it needs, taking it through the test fitting process, taking it through the prep process, the painting process, and then the reassembly. So it's a great series that I think you're going to enjoy. Let's go and check out exactly what's going on here. So by the looks of it, this car was backed into and it sustained a lot of damage to the fender right here, to the bumper cover, and to maybe some various little parts. Now, if you come a little bit closer, something like this is not really repairable. In this area, it's too many components that line up. So we want to make sure that this is replaced. So I wrote on here what we needed from the insurance company, and really quite surprised that we got a new fender. And over here, this can be fixed, but when it comes to components like this that are stressed out, if they're not identical to what they are from the mold coming out, there's gonna be some issues fitting. So we were able to also get a new bumper. We're gonna go ahead and tear apart the rest and see what else it needs. This is the tear down phase. And in the tear down phase, we're gonna take a look and see what other supplements we need to send out to the insurance to make sure that, well, we get all the correct parts to fix this vehicle back to OEM. So we're looking closer, and on initial inspection, I can see that the headlight tab is missing the whole plastic, and it's like still attached to this bolt right here. So let's remove the actual headlight and take a closer look. Another piece we took off that we noticed is damaged is this little bracket here. Very important. Now, one thing I do when I take off all the parts is I got these little Husky compartments from Home Depot, and everything gets put into here so we don't lose anything. So this is for the bumper. Even if it's a few screws, I still put in its own compartment, headlight, and then this will be for the fender. So looking closer, we can see that the actual frame here is not bent, which is a good sign because at our body shop, we only do small repair and replacing a part. So we're good, we can still do this repair. The beam right here is fair, it's in good condition. The only part that really took the hit is this fender right here. It's really crushed in. So what we'll do is we'll continue to remove the rest of this, but before we remove this, we're gonna have to take off the components that cover the fender, which is this side skirt right here. R&I means remove and install. We'll install obviously later on. So we'll remove this and some other bolts and nuts, and we'll take this right off. With the side skirt removed, now we can gain access to that bolt right there, okay? You wouldn't be able to do it unless the side skirt was removed. And then so we'll have another bolt up here at the top, so we'll load down the car. And then there are gonna be some bolts over here, so we wanna use a ratchet style wrench to get those out because it's going to be too difficult with a regular long extension. After that, it should come right off, nice and free. Now we're going to move on to the door. So to make sure we have full warranty, all the components of the door need to come off to make sure we can extend paint underneath the handle, underneath the molding here, and the mirror. We'll also go ahead and remove this rubber molding so we don't get paint on it as well. And only one screw to remove on that door panel, and then it will just come right off. One of the easier door panels to take off. And that gives us access to getting to this mirror in here, and a little bit easier to remove this belt molding, as well as removing the door handle. You'll see right here in the door handle it has an access hole. And now on some vehicles where it has a keyless entry, you have to unhook the harness, and you'll have to go through this protective covering right here, this moisture barrier. So we can see that we'll need a disconnect right in here. There is the harness like I was talking to you about. And now that will allow us to remove the door handle. Now to remove it, you'll just pull it out and slide it. and it comes right out with that little harness. To remove the mirror, you'll just take off this little sail panel, and then we have 1, 2, and 3. Sometimes these can be a little bit tough to remove, but if you bend them back a little bit with your fingers and pull them up and slide them, they'll come right off. The last part to remove is this hood scoop to get good paint coverage inside. Now, sometimes these little grommet clips can be a little bit of a pain. We've already removed 2 10s. Now, to remove that evenly, you'll need to use like any type of socket that fits over it nice and snug, and then push up on it, and then that will pop it out of the little hole right there. Sometimes you gotta do it a couple times, and then you'll be good to go. You see it right there. At this step, we've taken off all the parts, and now we need to wait for all the parts to come in. So the car is just gonna sit for a little bit, and then we'll do the final test fit. The test fit is very important because although it looks like it's all intact, we wanna make sure that everything bolts up, lines up before we paint it and put it back on the car. So just a day later, we got the 2 parts in that we really need for the test fit. So this is the bumper cover right here. This is all OEM parts, and then we got the fender. So we'll go ahead and take the fender out. When you always wanna make sure and inspect and make sure it doesn't have any damage, even though it is brand new, there's a lot of shipping that goes on with these parts, and sometimes they can come a little bit bent or dented. So give a good inspection first, look over it. It's just some box wear and tear. Looks overall pretty good. Let's go ahead and unwrap the bumper cover. It's always good to test fit sometimes because although it might look the same, you want to make sure it 100% fits and that's the right model. So pop on the fender. Got the fender all on. It's looking good so far. Now we will be getting a new headlight. This is the part that was missing. It's not going to affect the test fit. We really want to get this thing going so that we can get into episode 2 when we start the actual prep on the vehicle. Put our spacer on. Now we're going to install the bumper for the test fit. It's got a nice gap. Okay, the bumper installed. Now we want to check all of our gaps, make sure everything's lined up to the OEM spec. And looking at it, we're comparing our gaps for our hood gap on the driver's side to our hood gap on the passenger side. Now, some of the gaps will be a little bit funny because they'll be a little bit skinny and then get a little bit wider, but we want to keep that OEM consistency no matter how good or bad it looks. Now, the clips aren't in here, but you're going to want to make sure you put the clips in. Make sure everything lines up, even if it wasn't damaged in an area. And well, it's looking really good at this point. I'm really happy with how everything just bolted on, no problem. And you want to make sure you test fit everything. I can tell you early in my career, I didn't test fit a door. I went to paint it off the car and I went to put it on the car and it was for the other side. So you can imagine how that could have been prevented with a simple test fit. But sometimes, you know, when you get into accidents, even as small as this, little items get tweaked here and there. And this is the good time that you want to make sure you can bang them out or move them. You don't want to do it after it's been painted and well, the customer's about to show up. So get all of the little items taken care of right now. That way, when you go to put all the parts back on the car, you can ensure that it's going to be fitting properly and perfectly. So as for this episode, that will conclude the test fit, the initial breakdown of the car, ordering the parts, getting the parts in, making sure everything is good. Now on the next episode, what we're gonna show you is the paint prep process. Why do we need to blend paint? Why do I need to paint this door, this hood, if we're just painting the fender? What is the meaning? What is the reason? So we're gonna get into a little bit of color matching. We're gonna get into the paint prepping process. We show you how we clean. Why is it important to clean? Those are a couple elements we really wanna focus on. So guys, I hope you learned something from this episode. If you want to support the channel, head over to Paint Society store, paint.society.com. Pick up some merch. Also on our Instagram, have paint.society, a lot of great information over there. Guys, this is Brian from Paint Society reminding you, don't overthink it. It's just paint. We'll see you guys on the next episode.